President, Women in Mining of Nigeria, Honorable Janet Adeyemi, has lamented over the high rate of women marginalization in the mining sector, calls for structuralization in order to boost economic development. She disclosed this at a visual conference organized by Global Right Nigeria in Abuja. Honorable Janet noted that women bear the huge consequence of terminal diseases and economic devastation, hence the need for urgent intervention in order to enhance growth and productivity. She, however, stresses that in order to achieve sustainability of the sector, mobilization is key to bringing the government accountable to its citizens so as to benefit the mining host community in the country.
If you go by law, the legality of it, everybody has a stake in the mineral resources in an environment. You look at it from the point of who puts the mineral resources there in the first instance. Is it your father? Is it my father? That you just go in there and say because government has given you allocation or you have money and you took it. So that tells you that in terms of the first primary ownership, everybody living in any mining community have equal stake, you understand, to the resources in that environment. But when miners come in and when they talk about consent, the laws are very beautiful on paper, but is it followed to the letter? Negotiation skills, when women sit down, when they sit down at the table, are women there? Are community women recognized? What are the models of engagement, especially in the north, where the culture is very pronounced on women? You understand that you can't even sit with the men at table. So when they are doing negotiation, how do they bring women to the table to negotiate in terms of consent? Women are never there. Even in areas where it is not a non-Muslim area, do they call in women? No. The chiefs will just sit down and take their decision. At times, it is even just the chief alone that takes the decision. So women are excluded completely. And then when those decisions are to be taken, and even when they are taken on behalf of women, do they take things, that will impact or influence the life of the women or change the life of the women? No. And then when the consequences come, if you still go to JOS today, I remember when we were pushing for the first World Bank loan, I invited my friend from South Africa, and the phrase we go with me to my grave. He said they came, they devastated the environment, they took all the diamonds and it's on the crown of their heads. But we will live with the pits from which the diamonds are mined, and then we suffer the consequences till date. At 12, and you appraise them, you see the kind of diseases and friction. You find out that there are things that are prone to cancer when they are old. And why? Because of the environmental impacts of the contamination that is yet to be reclaimed, yet to be remediated. All of us will come together and start with government, engage government. Community, you have the women who are living there. You have the children who are living there, whose lives are truncated, whose lives are abused as a result of reckless mining. This sets of people must sit around at the table and look at sustainability issue. Before you mine, we must be able to do an atlas where we are mining, you understand, to sustainable development goals, to see what are the things, what indicators are we going to use, what are the targets, and how do we realize the 2030 agenda. You understand? So any mining policy should be able to give us that.
Also speaking on the impact of children in the mining sector, a mining expert, Mrs. Umusama Abubakar Osman, said over time, mining activities have caused damage on the lives of different communities due to unregulated miners, whereas appealing to the government to create modalities that will reduce the negative impact through empowering women so as to curb inequality in the country.
Impact of mining on children. It led to the death of over 700 children and still leaving about 4,363 children admitted, and still over 43% mortality rate between 2010 and 2013. This all on children. And still the survival of the children that survived the incidents were left with brain damage, kidney disease, and even liver problem presently. And many women had miscarriages due to this due to the lead poisoning, they had multiple miscarriages, having stillbirth babies. It causes impotency in men, increasing numbers of widows because of the pits that collapsed. While some miners were mining, the pits just collapsed and they were all buried alive. Some were dug, their bodies were dug, and some were left there, leaving the women to cater for their children alone. There was this equally exploitation of women, because the women that were involved in the grinding and processing of the golds, they were paid just meager amount compared to the hazards and dangers that are associated with it. Also, it led to child labor, because children that are supposed to be enrolled in school were left mining. And even those that had the privilege or have the opportunity to be enrolled in school, they left school, they became dropouts, just the meager amount. And as you know, most of the mining communities don't even have schools. They have to go to other communities to school. And those that are even going to the school have to leave school because of what they are getting in the mining site. This also led to the contamination of the major sources of water, which are the streams and wells. There are no potable drinking water as a result of this, still leaving people with health hazards and women suffering about looking for potable drinking water for their children. The loss of vegetation and the regression of agricultural lands, the mining activities of cutting down the trees in the area, destroying fertile lands meant for agricultural activities. This led to the production of low food in the mining communities. And as you can know, Zamfara, known as farming is our pride, which 85% of food production in the state are coming from these mining communities were lost. So it's not gain in saying the fact that women and children are the victims of mining activities in most of the mining host communities. They are more vulnerable and still they benefit less from the available resources, while their life and health are endangered. Therefore, there is need for the government and other actors in the mining sector to come up with legislations and modalities that will reduce the negative impact on this mining on children and women, as well as addressing the issues of inequality, discrimination, and neglect that are melted on women as a result of their perceived status in the community or society, more especially here in the North. Women should be empowered, and they should have this self-reliance that they should be free. There should be this freedom from dominance and exploitation. Government and other multinational organizations should also take it as a matter of necessity to provide basic social amenities to the mining host communities for them to benefit from the God-given wealth that was discovered in their community.
Yeah, the Executive Director Global Right Nigeria, Abiodun Bayo, while citing Section 17, Subsection 2D of the Nigerian Constitution, noted that it is the responsibility of the government to create an enabling environment, thereby ensuring that citizens' rights are not infringed by miners who seek to cater away the nation's natural resources as a result of mining in the host community.
Section 17(2)(d) of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria states that the exploitation of human or natural resources in any form whatsoever for reasons other than the good of the community shall be prevented. And the scenario that I've just built before you does not particularly state that our government is taking seriously this constitutional provision, which forbids the exploitation of our natural resources for whatsoever reason, other than for the good of the community. As a matter of fact, it commands our institutions, our government, to ensure that this is not done. 17(3) of the Constitution also states that we must ensure that labor is done with dignity and that the health of workers, their safety, is also protected.
These experts opine that building women capacity in the sector is one sure way to achieving the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development Goals. Vincent Okushi reporting for Quality Television.